Daf Yomi, Tractate Sanhedrin, page 59a, at the top of the page with the words V'hadinin kum asehu. V'kach hashiv kum aseh v'shav al taseninu. The Gemara challenges, but the mitzvah of establishing courts of judgment is a mitzvah to stand up and take action, and nevertheless he counts it among the 7 mitzvot. The Gemara answers, this mitzvah contains a requirement to stand up and take action. In other words, the obligation to establish courts and carry out justice, and it also contains a requirement to sit and refrain from action. In other words, the prohibition against doing injustice. V'amar Rabbi Yochanan, goy she'oisek b'toyer chayv misa. Shenemar tov toyer tziv lo morasha lo morasha v'lo lahem. Again, I continuously make this disclaimer, and I need to say it because I want to stress that I am not giving my opinions when I read this Talmud. It's only the Talmud's opinions. It's not my own. I don't agree with it at all times. And this is one of those times, so I'm just going to read it. And this is what it says. I don't know what they meant, if they were exaggerating, or if they were just trying to make a point, or if, basically the social reality at that time between Jews and Gentiles were really gnarly, and it was like, maybe a lot worse than today, maybe, but this is what it's saying. Rabbi Yochanan says that a Gentile who engages in Torah study is liable to receive the death penalty. I think that's a bit extreme. And even his proof, I don't understand. He says, as it is stated, Moses commanded a law and an inheritance of the congregation of Jacob. Okay. It says that it's an inheritance for us, not for them. But what does that have to do with giving them the death penalty for? It's just not their inheritance, okay? But it doesn't say anything about death. Okay, anyway, that's that. So, V'lachashve gabe sheva mitzvot. Man de'amar morasha migzar ka gazile. Man de'amar morasa dino kenara amorasa deviskila. The Gemara challenges, but if so, let the Tana count this prohibition among the 7 Noachide mitzvot. The Gemara explains, according to the one who says that the verse is referring to the Torah as an inheritance, this prohibition is included in the prohibition of robbery, as a Gentile who studies Torah robs the Jewish people of it. Oh, here they're trying to explain what the death penalty is. That doesn't make sense either. According to one who says that the verse is according to Torah's inheritance, this prohibition is included in the prohibition of robbery. As a Gentile who studies Torah robs the Jewish people of it? No. How can you rob the Jewish people of studying? No. According to the one who says that the verse is referring to Torah as betrothed, as the spelling of the Hebrew word for betrothed, menorasah, is similar to that of the word for inheritance. The punishment of a Gentile who studies Torah is like that of one who engages in intercourse with a betrothed young woman, which is execution by stoning. Yeah, that's very extreme, and it's definitely not kept today. There's plenty of non-Jews today who are learning Torah all the time. It doesn't really make sense. And I don't think anyone really asks on it. They accept it as just, but it doesn't make sense. Anyway, Meisvei Haya Rabbi Meir Oimer Minayin Shafira Goy. And now look at Rabbi Meir saying the exact opposite. He's saying that if a non-Jew learns Torah, he's considered like a high priest, That's a far cry from Rabbi Yochanan, who's saying he's chai of death. Rabbi Yochanan said he's chai of death if he learns Torah. If a Gentile learns Torah, he has death penalty. And then Rabbi Meir says he's higher than a high priest. I mean, talk about polar opposites, bipolar. The Gemara, Meser higher man of an Sheffield goy shoyzik v'toyre u'shegoying alish dema asher yaso isma demachai b'hem kohanim leviim Yisraelim v'nemar ela ha'adam v'lamad shefil goy ois v'toyre hayim goying alish. The Gemara raises an objection to Rabbi Yochanan's statement from a brighter. A mayor would say, from where is it derived that even a Gentile who engages in Torah studies is considered like a high priest? It is derived from that which is stated. You shall therefore keep my statutes and my ordinances, which if a man does, he shall live by them. Leviticus 18:5. The phrase, which if priests, Levites, and Israelites do, they shall live by them, is not stated, but rather a man, which indicates mankind in general. You have therefore learned that even a Gentile who engages in Torah study is considered like a high priest. The Gemara answers there in the Braita the references to a Gentile who engages in the study of their 7 mitzvot. It is a mitzvah for a Gentile to study the halachot that pertain to the 7 Noachide mitzvot. When he does so, he is highly regarded. Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel Omer, Af Adam min Achai. Tarabanan Abbas ben Afshoy ben Amel Osachelu. Ze'er ben Achai, Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel Omer, Af Adam min Achai. The Braita that lists the Noachide mitzvot in 56a teaches that Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel says the descendants of Noah are also commanded concerning the prohibition against consuming the blood from a living animal. The sages found in Braita, with regard to the verse, only flesh with its life, which is his blood, you shall not eat. Only flesh with its life, which is his blood, you shall not eat. Genesis 9:4. This is the prohibition against eating a limb from a living animal. Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel says the blood from a living animal is also prohibited in the verse. The Gemara asks, what is the reasoning behind the opinion of Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel? The Gemara answers, he reads into the verse, flesh with its life you shall not eat. The blood with its life you shall not eat. The Gemara asks, and how do the rabbis explain the mention of blood in this verse? After all, in their opinion, blood from living animals is not forbidden. The Gemara answers, that comes to permit eating limbs from living, creeping animals. The verse indicates that the prohibition does not apply to creeping animals whose blood is not considered separate from their flesh. See 59b. כיוצא בדבר אתה אומר, רק חזק לבלתי יכול אדם, כי אדם הוא הנפש. רק חזק לבלתי יכול אדם, זה עבר מן החי. כי אדם הוא הנפש, זה דם מן החי. The Braita continues, similarly, you can say that according to the opinion of Rabbi Chanina, blood from living animals is also forbidden to the Jewish people, in particular, as it is stated, only be steadfast in not eating blood, as the blood is the life, and you shall not eat the life with the flesh. Deuteronomy 12:23. With regard to the statements, only be steadfast in not eating blood, this is a limb from a living animal, as the blood is the life. This is blood from a living animal. Rabbananu dam hakaza sheneshama yotze bo hudasa. The Gemara asks, and how do the rabbis who hold that there is no specific prohibition with regard to blood from a living animal interpret this verse? The Gemara answers, that verse comes to teach the prohibition against consuming blood spilled in the process of bloodletting, as this is blood through which the soul departs. Sikritot 20b Lama li lemechta levei Noach velama lemechta Lama li lemishne basinai. The Gemara asks, according to Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel, why do I need the Torah to write this halakha with regard to descendants of Noah, and why do I need the Torah to repeat it at Sinai with regard to other Jews? Aren't Jews also descendants of Noah? Okay. Aren't Jews also descendants of Noah? Because Rabbi Yossi ben Chanina, Damar Rabbi Yossi ben Chanina, Kol Mitzvah Shenemra, Noach. The Gemara answers that it is to be understood in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, son of Rabbi Chanina, as Rabbi Yossi, son of Rabbi Chanina says, any mitzvah that was first stated with regard to the descendants of Noah and was repeated at Sinai was stated for this group, and for that group it applies to both Gentiles and Jews. Livnei Noach v'lo lishnis b'Sinai l'Yisrael nemo v'loi livnei Noach v'anu ein lanu ela gid hanashe v'alibed Rabbi Yehuda. But a mitzvah that was stated with regard to the descendants of Noah and was not repeated at Sinai among the mitzvot given to the Jewish people, that was stated for the Jewish people and not for the descendants of Noah, and we have only the prohibition against eating the sciatic nerve, to which this classification applies, and this is according to the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that the verse, therefore the children of Israel do not eat the sciatic nerve, which is on the hollow of the thigh, until this day, Genesis 32:32, it is referring to the sons of Jacob, who were commanded to observe this prohibition, even though they had the status of descendants of Noah. Amar mar kol mitzvah nishnas Sinai zel nemra adrab mid nishnas Sinai Yisrael nemra loy. The Master said in writing, any mitzvah that was stated with regard to the descendants of Noah and was repeated at Sinai was stated for this group and for that group. The Gemara raises an objection on the contrary, from the fact that it was repeated at Sinai. Clearly, it can be derived that it was stated for the Jewish people and not for the descendants of Noah, as it pertains to the descendants of Noah as well. Why repeat at Sinai? Aren't the Jewish people are also descendants of Noah? Aren't they also descendants of Noah? Right? You see, Tanya Vodazah B'Sinai Tishkachan Danash Goyim Nivu Il Lave Shmamina Zela Zenevra. The Gemara answers from the fact that the prohibition of idol worship was repeated at Sinai, and we find that God punished Gentiles for it. Conclude from it that any mitzvah that was repeated at Sinai was stated for this group and for that group, and not only for the Jewish people. Noach, nishnas b'Sinai, Israel never livnei Noach, adrab midloi nishnas b'Sinai, livnei Noach never Israel, libam leka miyadam leIsrael. Okay. It is further stated in the Brisa that a mitzvah that was stated with regard to the descendants of Noah and was not repeated at Sinai was stated for the Jewish people and not for the descendants of Noah. The Gemara raises an objection. On the contrary, from the fact that it was not repeated at Sinai, clearly could be derived it was stated for the descendants of Noah and not for the Jewish people. The Gemara answers there is nothing that is permitted to a Jew and forbidden to a Gentile. Okay. Below, the Gemara asks, and is there not? But isn't there the permission for a Jew to take a married beautiful woman who is taken a prisoner of war to be his wife? For a Gentile to do so is forbidden. The Gemara answers there, the reason Gentiles are prohibited from doing so is because they are not authorized to conquer. It is not permitted for Gentiles to wage wars of conquest, and the halakha of marrying a beautiful woman is stated only with regard to a war conquest. Therefore, the fact that a beautiful woman who is taken a prisoner of war is permitted only to a Jew and not to a Gentile does not indicate that Gentiles have a higher degree of sanctity. The Gemara asks, but isn't stealing less than the value of one pruta prohibited to a Gentile or prohibited to a Jew? The Gemara answers, this is because Gentiles are not apt to grant forgiveness of debts, even of less than the value of one pruta. Therefore, For a Gentile to take even such a minuscule amount is considered robbery. Jews normally forgive each small amount. It is stated in the Bride that any mitzvah that was stated with regard to the descendants of Noah, and was repeated at Sinai, was stated for both this group and for that group.